Right. It is indeed a very, very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's another Wednesday, the 11th of March 2026. Tarehe 11 mwezi ni wa 3 mwaka 2026. It is episode 6 of 2026 of the Tackle. And we're coming again to you on this Wednesday of the 11th March 2026. And as usual, please, when you join in, when you like, we get to know that you're watching us. Another like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. When you join in, please when you like, we get to know you're watching us. Another like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. Also, let us know where you're watching us from tonight. And please prepare your questions. We have the chairperson of 10-point agenda. Vice chairperson, Bigambo, will be taking us through the 10-point agenda. And as well, we'll be discussing, of course, the new pact between ODM and UDA, or UDA and ODM. Either way you look at it, there's a D in between. So they had a joint PG yesterday, and there seems to be some ramifications that are coming out, ratifications that are coming out. You're looking at that as well. Tukona Daktari Hansen Owila up here. He's an expert in political communication as well. He'll be taking us through the happenings in the political scene and also making us understand exactly what we are trying to do with the 10-point agenda and NADCO report. And then we have, of course, Daktari Ojwang. Daktari Ojwang is an international humanitarian law teacher, and he's been with us long, so you know Ojwang. Good evening, gentlemen. Ojwang, vipi? You good? Uh-huh.
I'm glad you survived the floods.
We will need
There are people who will have wished you don't survive. I'm one of the people who wish you survive, and you did survive.
Are you sure you're among the people who wished that I survived, or you should not have survived?
You know, in my village there's a time my uncle was swept by the river, and he only survived because there was a tree held on. The next day, his neighbor went and cut down that tree. True story.
Musagenda.
He had survived, but for next time.
There's no tree to
The message was home.
Hansen Owila, Daktari, good evening to you.
Good evening.
It's been a while. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So many Happy New Years, yeah? How many years? 3 years?
No. I think 2 years.
Yeah, 2024, 3 years, 2024, 2025, 2026. But good to see you.
I need to repent my sins. I'm also glad. I'm genuinely glad you survived the floods. Not the Ojwang. Ojwang, I'm sure he's the one who would have cut the tree. I'm happy to see you. Salimia Raya.
Yeah. Habari ya Raya. Happy to have you here.
I'm happy to have you. And our expert for the night, Bwana Vice Chair. The last time you were here, you were jobless.
Mr. Bitok.
But clearly the Lord works in mysterious ways.
No, we thank God.
Who knew that NADCO would give you a job? As I say, never waste a crisis.
No, we thank God.
But good to see you. Happy to see you, my brother.
Asante sana, happy to see you. And looking at the issues of floods, I think history demonstrates that we as a people will outlast every kind of tragedy that this country ever faces.
Is that why we never fix it? Because we cannot fix it?
Not really. But I think that we need to pull up our socks from around the anklets when it comes to matters dealing with some tragedies that really we can manage. The two docs here will tell you that while we have got special plans, urban plans over the past so many years, I think time will come, indeed it has, Mr. Bitok,
yes,
that we must have perhaps our priorities right and get to put our money where our mouths are.
Okay. And talking about floods, what are your thoughts? How did you survive, Hansen? Of course, you are not...
You know, the telltale signs of what happened, I think, was it on Friday and Thursday, were clear by Wednesday. Wednesday, you could actually tell that, you know, there was something coming up. And, I mean, a lot of people would have, you know, experienced worse than what we experienced. It's unfortunate that we lost lives.
Yes.
But I think people are a bit cautious. And at the citizens' level, I think there is some sense of responsibility in terms of running away from the calamity.
But there's a sense in which there's a dual responsibility, both in the citizenry and the government.
The government, yes, the leadership.
And I think enough people have talked about, we need to take the bulk of the responsibility as citizens, because we are the ones who litter the cities, we clog the drainage, and I think that's far from it. Mm-hmm. I think if there was a system that was robust enough to address some of these issues, provide a very efficient and effective drainage system, people won't have any opportunity to do the wrong thing. Okay. Because if you've already sorted and everything is clear cut, it would even look odd if you are the one in a million people who is trying to do something that is not right given the systems that have been put in place. Okay. But ultimately, I think, and I've written about this in one of my articles, I think ultimately when we talk of disaster, we need to start looking at who are we putting in critical positions of responsibility. I think in most of the county governments, my county included, I think the number of people who've been put in certain critical dockets either are not fit for those positions, not because they don't have qualifications, they have a mismatch in qualification. And it becomes even difficult for them to mobilize the right stakeholders to do the right thing. Okay. And I think it's about time we started questioning some of these structures and the people we put in these positions.
All right. Ojwang, what do you think about the flood?
There's enough blame to go around. I was one of the people who pushed and very excited about the Sustainable Waste Management Act.
And you also in Nairobi River Commission at one time. You've been in many places.
It's my speech, okay. So
just wanted to remind you.
So the Sustainable Waste Management Act is supposed to help us sort our waste at the household level, straighten or strengthen the issue of licensing of waste carriers, which are all over now. And much of the work is with the counties. Okay. I think Doc here have talked of, and that's why I started by saying there's enough blame to go around. Part of what I tried to do in Nairobi River is the culture shift. And the culture shift is that the way we think, culture is so daily. And every day we do things that do not help us to live in a sustainable way. You find somebody has thrown some garbage out, somebody has built an apartment without system to collect the garbage. And, you talk to Nairobians and they tell you throw it away until you remind them that away is someone else's neighborhood. So for as long as this is not within my space, then it is away. There's a time in Nairobi River I spoke to the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company. And they said, what you guys are doing in Nairobi River cannot be sustainable until you actually put a sewer line across the city. Do you know that we live in a city where some estates don't have a sewer line? Correct. So you clean the river, you do things, but if there is no sewer line, where do you think the many apartments and development are sending their sewers? So there is enough blame to go around, and I think that it's the test of leadership. Nairobi is too important to be trashed. And remember, for Sakaja, and I think the executive believe that the 80 billion will be a good step towards having the city be upgraded to a modern city that can take care of Kenyans. Remember, Nairobi was planned for a year only for, 500,000 people? Okay. By the Wazungu. But now, look at the numbers. Okay. And development have gone before people build, then Kenya Power look for them, then Mtua Garbage look for them. It's an opposite way of doing things. Thank you.
All right. Honorable Felix Muammar Gaddafi, good to see you. Great to see you back. Asante sana. Isaiah Oka. Haya, Martin Doc, the good Mbakazi village in the show. Say hi to the panelists. Can you unpack for us this infrastructure fund? Yes, we'll be having the CS for CS for Treasury next week. That is John Buddy. He was to come in this week, but he traveled. So next week we'll be having John Buddy. And he'll help us understand the infrastructure fund well. So if you have any questions for the infrastructure fund, please keep them for next week on Wednesday. Waziri akikuja, you'll ask all the questions you want to ask. For now, tunazungumzia mambo ya Chungwa na Wheelbarrow na NADCO na 10-point agenda. So very quickly before we go to NADCO, which is the flesh of this conversation today. So yesterday there was a joint PG between ODM, UDA and ODM. And there was also a committee that has been proposed to be formed of 8 people for each side to determine and find a structure on how they're going to work together heading to 2027. So do you answer? What do you make of this?
Well, I think it was just about time. I think there was a lot of conversations around the 10-point agenda. It's been 1 year since it was signed between ODM and UDA, and I think a number of questions were being raised about this UDA and ODM, or let me say Kenya Kwanza and ODM, arrangement. Why is it going without us getting clarity on what brought ODM and Kenya Kwanza together? The 10-point agenda. So a lot of these conversations were critical that this coming together was to address 10 key things. So there shouldn't be any conversations around what happens next without us taking, an evaluation. Evaluation of why you came together before you move ahead. Can we see, has it been fruitful for Kenyans? Has it worked for the common Mwananchi? And I think it was important that they met yesterday to just give us a brief overview of what has happened. We know that broadly, they created a roadmap for what will happen, but they gave us a gist of what has happened. It is not all rosy, but I think from a political point of view, we can actually say that the coming together of Kenya Kwanza and ODM was occasioned by political tensions. And I think for the last 1 year, we can all agree that part of the 10-point agenda was to address the political tensions, and it succeeded in doing that. So to that extent, you can say that even the communication that they gave yesterday and the committee that they put together is probably a promising, place to begin critiquing what they have done. When I look at it from a political point of view, and I think this is just an opinion I've held, and I think it's important to put it out. Probably Raila Odinga had a premonition of his death. Because if you look at what was happening before the coming together and the signing of the 10-point agenda, I think we had a lot of all these issues being addressed in the streets. And I think the only person who could get Kenyans into the streets and safely remove them from the streets was Raila. And to a large extent, if we had remained in a situation where anyone can get into the streets without that very authoritative figure that can withdraw people from the streets, would be in a worse situation, And that's why I appreciate, the political aspect of the coming together and the 10-point agenda. But it didn't leave us in a situation where we have to sit in this pact. You see, for me, the critical anchor of conversations going forward would not be going to the streets, would be questioning these 10 points. And I think the conversations that started yesterday are very critical. We are asking ourselves, what were the critical things in these 10 points? First was the issue of NADCO, that they were supposed to implement NADCO to its fullest, which was very critical because NADCO talked a lot about electoral reforms, electoral justice, revamping of institutions. And there was a critical element of inclusivity in NADCO, which talked about stuff that were going to touch on the constitution and probably move into a referendum. And I think there's a bill in Parliament. Wakili here probably, Prof, will talk about it. There's a bill in Parliament that talks about the constitutional amendment. I don't know where it has reached. But besides that, there were other issues. So you can actually say that the institutional and the constitutional reforms and the electoral issues, which included an audit of the last general election, instituting reforms that would guarantee electoral justice, those ones, to a large extent, we can say, have not been addressed, But the beauty of the 10-point agenda is that we will not go to the streets. We will ask. This was an agreement. Why is it that we are not making progress in this place? Now, there are other areas that you can tell. I mean, politics being politics. There are other areas that you can tell attempt has been made. I mean, there was the issue in the 10-point agenda and the NADCO report about our national debt and audit of our national debt and how to reduce that national debt. And I think you can see efforts have been made. The infrastructure fund, I mean, not many people might agree with it, but at least there's an effort there to withdraw us from accumulating more debt. Now, the unrest by young people, and then there was the issue of economic well-being of young people and the marginalized, especially women. And if you look at things like the Nyota Fund, despite the political undertones that characterize conversations around them, efforts have been made. And I think for us as Kenyans, it's a question of asking ourselves, is it enough? And what else can be done, A number of people have talked about, and I'm very passionate about these economic elements of the current regime. I began with the Hustler Fund when this regime came to power. The Nyota Fund is out of this world. I know a number of politicians have talked about it being a World Bank fund. But if you look at it critically, you trace it back to what NADCO and the 10-point agenda did. That World Bank couldn't come and fund you if you have a volatile political situation. So it is the regime that creates that conducive environment that attracts that. And I think it's just prudent. Any other regime would shine with that. So the extent to which it has been politicized is a question of who is benefiting from that. If the coin was to be tossed, whoever is against it would still do the same thing. But the most critical things that we need to keep exercising our minds and asking, Javas and company about are issues to do with, the cost of living. So to what extent, despite what they're telling us, to what extent are we seeing changes in our individual family economies locally? Have we seen changes, And to a large extent, you can say that in as much as stuff has been done, Kenyans along the streets will still tell you we are not seeing much of a difference in terms of money in our pockets, in terms of our purchasing power. And I think to that extent, despite what the other 10 agendaless group is talking about and what the joint PG said, I think at the end of the day, the common mwananchi wants to understand, are my issues addressed today, And 8 in every 10 Kenyans will tell you that, yes, we are not going to the streets. No one is going to brutalize us. No one is going, but things have not changed. Jobs for young people, food on the table, and the ability to, first of all, earn and have an opportunity of saving. I think to a large extent, if you ask many Kenyans, since the inception of this regime, that has been a big challenge, very big challenge. That it's not like we are worse off. It's just that we are seeing every other month, things are not getting better for us. That saving that you used to make, you keep reducing it. There are people who've exhausted and now they're getting into their reserves. And I think these are the critical conversations that the committee that has been put forward should focus on. Like, people are not going to vote for this arrangement that UDA and Kenya Kwanza will come up with simply because it is, ODM and Kenya Kwanza, simply because it is ODM and Kenya Kwanza. The next election, I think, will be more about the plight of Kenyans. Have we addressed most of the issues, that Kenyans have affected us? Yes.
Okay. Not sure though if it's fair for you to call the other guys agendaless, but anyway.
I'm not calling them agendaless. They are saying that what was presented yesterday is agendaless points. Yeah.
Ojwang. So, what do you make of yesterday's joint PG? Politically, what's the impetus that we expect to see? Even outside Javas.
The expert,
And
I
this
thought
10 point.
you'll go first, but let me maybe muddy the water because yesterday we saw a very good report, and then today we have seen another report. And the question has been, was this meant to be a sprint or a marathon? A shift, and there is different opinions from both sides. I saw the Sifuna team report, and I also saw Java's team representing to the principals. But maybe the political question, as you ask, is, well, why is this important? Because the Sifuna team will simply, if they don't believe in the 10-point agenda, they will just ignore it. But you see they are not able to ignore it. Instead, they are also burning midnight oil to come with a counter report on the report. Of course, you can ask basic question like, where is that report going to be implemented? I hate when my boss have me do reports that have no implementers. but and then I listened to some of the argument. Of course, Karoli said that we did a perception survey.
Yes.
And called on Kenyans on how do you feel about the implementation of NADCO and 10-point. Of course, one might critique the method, whether it is sufficient, because, survey is like a photo. I can take a photo on a red shirt. Tomorrow, I might not have that photo. And so it appears more towards opinion than data. And so you can see that the other team tried to have a data-driven. But still, they consolidated a counter report. Why is it important? Why are they not letting the issue go? I think that the coalition of ODM and UDA are at the critical juncture. At a critical juncture because, the Sifuna team are talking of, we are sticking with the values and the ideals of ODM. This other side are saying the 10-point agenda are actually those values and ideals that we are implementing.
Okay.
So those values are not in the thin air, that they are things you pull and romanticize. They are actually why Ajacom sat with the president and wrote the 10-point. And if you look at them, each and every point out of those 10 are the values that so much have driven the ODM objective. So, remember the coalition between Uhuru and Jacom last election started like a joke. Mara, they are doing BBI. Mara, no, this is not political. This is about the future of the country. But we know it ended up being cemented as a political coalition. And I think that is why then the 10-point agenda became very important for politicians and for Kenyans because it's a signal of we are working together towards this direction. Of course, it came out clearly that now we are forming a team that is going to begin a coalition arrangement. Now, whether the other side, of course, brought very good argument, whether the 10-point agenda and the team had power to extend it or extend themselves. Of course, I didn't carry much of that argument or give it much weight because it's like saying if Jacom had signed it, even if it was to expire on 10th March, you are saying that the living, right? The living cannot say we need to do much more and extend it. And so the argument was that that is already a sign of betrayal. It was to expire on 10th. What they should have done if they respected Jacom is down their tool and say 10th has come. Of course, I don't take that argument seriously. Just like the idea of, where did the Jacom heart lie? For Sifuna, he has made so much, he has built a mountain on that one line. Nani alikuambia?
Who told you?
Yeah. Or in the whole speech, that line has become his mantra. It has become the anthem. I'm rebelling because Jacom said Nani alikuambia. I'm abusing the party leader because Jacom said Nani alikuambia. Of course, I think it's like a rose of sand. When you want to hold it, it breaks. So why is the 10-point agenda important? Because people saw NADCO and saw what NADCO was coming to do and the structural shift, but NADCO was also an organizing political arrangement. And we know what happened. So if you look at the patterns, you look at the trends of coalition building in Kenya, coalition building at Messi, but you can tell that this thing is concretizing as a coalition. Finally, I think when you look at the two sides in ODM, there's the side that is pragmatic, and Jacom was able to combine both sides very well. Jacom was riverine, pragmatic, practical, but also ideologue. And he knew when to bring in the idealist and when to be pragmatic. And that seems to be the issue that occupy ODM conversation. Because you hear ODM was meant for this, and it appears a little bit ideologue versus pragmatism. The reason ODM has survived for 20-something years is because of that pragmatism. The reason Jacom has survived in politics is because it's riverine and pragmatic. The reason that and the route that now ODM are taking is the pragmatic route of saying, you know what, we had the ideals, now we can leave them through the 10-point, we can negotiate within here, we have talk of legal equality, but not equality of opportunity in terms of economy, just like Doc was saying here. Because importantly, you can talk of liberty, but how about the economy? So we are seeing those conversations going. Of course, Orengo, the other side, have been talking of betrayal of ideals. We live in a pragmatic world where even Orengo himself, remember at some point, actually did not believe in ODM. But the voters and the reality of Luoland forced Orengo to join ODM. Sifuna ran, and the people did not see those values to be very important or ideals. They didn't give him vote. He recouped and came back. Professor Nyong'o, even at some point, was in SDP when we were young people, but he was able to come back to ODM. So there is a combination of change and shift and the discussion. Yes.
All right. So quickly, Elder, Vice Chairperson. First, is this another BBI? Because it looks like from the analogy that Ojwang is giving us historically when it comes to politics, we're having another BBI moment. Secondly, we have two reports from the same ODM. We just got another report 2 hours ago, I think this evening, from the Sifuna and the Karuli Moni team. And now we have the report. I was passing by around town yesterday and I saw you presenting something somewhere. So which one do we adopt as we proceed?
Mr. Bitok, first, thank you for the invitation tonight. And as we sit here in this intellectual fireside, it is important for us to appreciate that we are actually living in a moment of history, a political reality that we cannot run away from. My two distinguished fellow panelists have spoken and spoken very well regarding the issues surrounding the 10-point agenda. Nearly more than 28 hours ago, or perhaps 30, the committee overseeing the implementation of the 10-point agenda presented its critical report to His Excellency President William Ruto, party leader of UDA, and Senator Honorable Dr. Oburu Oginga, the party leader of ODM, and to the joint parliamentary group, and to that extent to all Kenyans. And from the time of the release of that report, I have taken time to listen to Kenyans, follow through conversations and sentiments. And let me tell you, we have to be truthful. I get it as we sit here tonight. There are some Kenyans who are doubting any kind of report that comes from any government affiliated or associated entity, or even government itself. I get it. I understand when some section of Kenyans want to look at anything to do with government and pick it with a pinch of salt. I get it. And it's important because we are a constitutional democracy. And nobody should be beaten to a pulp because of their sentiments, perception, imagination. Because that's what maturity invites us to. But you asked me a very important question. Which report should we agree with? And which report is the correct report? Mr. Bitok, I know truth is a garment that few people want to wear most of the time. But you must wear it nonetheless, lest you are considered a madman for exposing your nudity in broad daylight. When it comes to the implementation of the critical governance issues itemized as the 10-point agenda, there are only 5 or nearly 6, if you like, implementing agencies. The executive, the legislature, the judiciary, constitutional commissions and independent offices, and county governments. Those are the implementing agencies. No agency can implement anything in the 10-point agenda outside those 5. No one, no entity. The 10-point agenda issues were analyzed critically by the committee overseeing the 10-point agenda and its implementation. In street parlance, under the nom de plume, COIN-10, the committee. We have engaged extensively with all stakeholders, all the implementing agencies, civil society organizations and political parties, and ordinary citizens. The report that we presented yesterday were a direct product of the sentiments of the implementing agencies and citizens, all stakeholders. Today, I have read a report by the so-called opposition leaders, courtesy of the Sifuna Group, indicating that that is the analysis of the status of implementation of the 10-point agenda. Give it to them. I read somewhere, Mr. Bitok, within the covers of the Constitution of Kenya, the freedom of opinion, speech, it is granted. Let them speak. I have not seen any single piece of evidence indicating that the Sifuna Group has engaged with any of the implementing agencies. How did they analyze the implementation of the 10-point agenda? Is it about their feelings? The 10-point agenda is not about feelings. Fighting corruption is not about feelings. Constitutionalism and the rule of law, reducing wastage of public resources, compensation of victims of protests and riots. It's not about perception and feelings. It's about facts. It's about the law. Mr. Bitok, 5 days ago, the head of public service, Honorable Felix Koskei, gazetted on the 6th of March a 19-member panel that will work under a framework established by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights to ensure the compensation of victims of riots and protests, ensure justice for the victims of protests and riots. Under the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, one among those members of the 19-member panel is Dr. Ojwang here. President William Ruto is resolute about the issue of compensation. That is the agreement he had with the late Raila Odinga. So when some people wake up from the ashes of naysaying and doom to say that the 10-point agenda's report negates what Raila Odinga stood for, let me tell you, when Raila Odinga was alive, nobody spoke for him. Were they speaking for him because he's dead? Honorable Raila Odinga spoke with the president. They agreed under the MOU, predicated on the 10-point agenda, which is being implemented. Let me ask you a few fundamental questions. In affirmation of the 10-point agenda we released yesterday and this report, when it comes to the issue of inclusion,
yes,
Mr. Bitok, NHIF was repealed, which actually only helped 7 million Kenyans. Okay. We now have got the Social Insurance Fund under the Social Health Insurance Act, SHA. 29.8 million Kenyans are beneficiaries. The government of Kenya is paying for 1.5 million indigents. Is that not inclusion? When you listen to the naysayers, their friends, their neighbors are benefiting from SHA itself. When you look at economic inclusion.
But fair enough, was SHA part of NADCO really?
No, it was not part of NADCO. But you see, when you look at the 10-point agenda, NADCO is only point number 1. The rest of the 9 is part of the agreement between Honorable Raila Odinga.
I meant a 10-point agenda. Was it part of the 10-point agenda?
Yes.
Was it any other? Was there a point where SHA was?
Because when it comes to inclusion, it is social, economic, and political. By the way, do you know that just by the formation of the broad-based government constitutes political inclusion? It is inclusion politically.
But some would argue exclusivity.
No, there's nothing exclusive about it.
Some would say we are excluded.
No, it is inclusion. President William Ruto is on record saying, we need a country that brings everybody on board.
Correct.
Everybody, unless they are not bodies.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. So, in the interest of Raia, before I come to you, Hansen, these are actually the 10-point agendas that were agreed on between UDA and ODM. One was implementation of the NADCO report. This initially constituting the IBC and restructuring the electoral process. I think that's what NADCO was all about. And then second is inclusivity in governance, promoting a broad-based government and diverse appointments. I think that's what they had looked at in that sense. Protect and discern and devolution, economic investment in youth, uphold integrity in leadership, safeguard right to peaceful assembly. 7, audit and reduce national debt. 8, fight corruption. 9, responsible management of public resources. And 10, protect the sovereignty of the people. Hansen, I'm sure you've read the 2 reports.
Yeah.
ODM-A and ODM-2.
Yes, ODM-2 with their 10
No, but let's face it. The report we released yesterday before Dr. speaks was not from ODM.
It was from
from the committee constituted by both UDA and ODM.
Joint committee.
Today, the report released by the Sifuna Group is the half-baked report that in fact does not even have legs. It's like amoeba using pseudopodia.
I'm not mad at amoeba. Okay. Strictly, let's on a very serious note then, because the one we have one official report, it was released yesterday. Of course, these other ones reserve a voice, like brother, the expert has said. Opinion is like.
I mean,
so, do you think this report has lived to this 10-point agenda?
No, definitely no. I mean, believe in the report, and I think it's a fairly good place that Baba left us. Okay. That at the end of the day, as a people living in one country, we will discuss on issues. So Baba may not be here to talk about corruption, like Javas has said. But you see, corruption is covered in the 10-point agenda. So no one can stop us from talking about corruption because Baba already talked about it. We can continue that conversation and say the agreement in the 10-point agenda talked about the fight against corruption. So to what extent are we seeing this fight succeeding? And the reason why I say this document is a good document, but to romanticize its achievement is another thing. There are so many gaps. We can cherry pick the things that the committee has done quite well. We can look at the framework that they've put in place, for instance, to compensate victims of protests, which is laudable. But we cannot run away from the fact that inclusivity is not just a function of appointing a few ODM members, asking them to resign and take cabinet positions. That is lip service to the idea of inclusivity. Because if we draw it from what NADCO talked about political and economic inclusivity. So we need to see these positions and resources being inclusive and catering for each and every Kenyan in this country. It is one thing to have an opinion about people who talked about, government as shareholders. And then you have people who are coming on board and their conversation is exactly the same. They're talking about shareholding, just using different lexicon terms, So I would say there's a lot that has not been done. Actually, more of what has not been done than what has been done. The first one is inclusivity. I think NADCO talked about inclusivity in the sense of having the aspirations of the people, not the appointing of individuals, but having the aspirations of the people represented in government. Two critical things.
But it's the leaders who represent the people.
Exactly. Okay. But who elected leaders who've been appointed to cabinet positions? They are serving at the behest of the president. Tomorrow they can be sent home.
And even if you pick Javas,
and we have some who
still represent aspirations.
No. We have some who are holding dockets, and when they ask questions about their dockets, they are telling us what the president is saying. I mean, so unfortunate that you have a cabinet secretary who is supposed to help the president, but the point of reference for what they do is the president. But let me come back to the point, because the spirit of NADCO was very simple. Mm-hmm. It captured a lot of what was in BBI. That we need inclusivity at the point of political representation so that the aspirations of the people are covered. And two critical things that people are not talking about is that NADCO, which is point number one in the 10-point agenda, talks about the creation of the position of official opposition leader. We cannot run away from that. Now, it suggested the creation of the position of a prime minister, because we live in a country where elections will always be hotly contested and the margins of victory will always be very small. So a number of Kenyans will feel like our presidential candidate has lost. And for the next 5 years, where are we? We are outside government. We can only speak as guys who are walking along the streets or kwa mustuni. Now, when you create that position of official opposition leader, then there is some sense of oversight where we are not talking about individuals, but we are talking about systems and structures. Then the other thing is the question of national debt. So a lot has been done around that, but we've tiptoed around national debt. To date, this committee in their report didn't give us a comprehensive report on the national debt. When was that audit done? So it is one thing for us to say that the institutions that are implementing, but for Kenyans, the critical thing is to see that the implementing institutions have done something and have presented to Kenyans. That one has not been done. Now, when we come to the issue of strengthening devolution, I think there's a bit of gray hair there, that when you talk about strengthening devolution, what exactly is that? And what are the indicators that devolution has been strengthened? Electoral reforms, again, that was in NADCO. Other than reconstituting IEBC, do we have anything different? Because whatever has been done is what was done when Isaac Hassan's team was leaving, when a few commissioners left and the Chebukati team was reconstituted. So that perception of IBC as an institution that is beholden by the incumbent or the executive still obtains. And I think this report, ought to speak to that and ensure that Kenyans are seeing a body that is capable, both by spirit, their actions, and the dint of, the framework that they put in place, capable of holding free, fair,
credible elections.
No. There are 5 things. I have done an election. So free, fair, transparent,
And
credible, and verifiable. I held an election, a national elections in 2024, the Football Kenya Federation election. If you go to any county, you will find the results. Can we say the same thing about IBC? We cannot. And then let me talk about the last thing that I think Kenyans see, and they're asking themselves, did this report really exhaustively cover everything? The fight against corruption. Just yesterday, on the splash of our newspapers, there was, this allegation by the Auditor General saying that 50 billion has been lost from SHA. Okay. So if SHA was supposed to be inclusive, and it's a good thing, the numbers that you're talking about from 7 million to 28 is amazing. But what would happen if you were not losing money? The president dismissed it. But Kenyans outside there, who would they believe when it comes to corruption? Would they believe the president or
maybe the newspaper?
The auditor? No, not the newspaper. I don't think Kenyans believe the newspaper.
Because what I think was raised in the newspaper was audit queries.
Yes, audit queries. You see, you and I understand that when an audit query is raised, it is an exception. It doesn't mean that money was lost. It doesn't mean. It basically means that we need to account for this money. It is not lost. Now, when the president dismisses it, the assumption is maybe it got lost. You see, because the guys walking along the streets don't understand that when it is raised by the office of the Auditor General, it is not lost. Wanajua hiyo imeenda. And I think those are the critical things. When you have in the public domain the exchange between an office, like the office of the Auditor General and the office of the President, talking about, 50 billion. And in this country, we've moved beyond just billions getting lost to trillions. So unless those issues are addressed, it won't matter whether it is the Sifuna report, which I think is just a reaction. We can't call it a report. It's a reaction to the real report, or what is in the report. It's a question of what is it that is coming out.
Ojwang, you might have a few things to say about what Dr. Hansen has said. But I'm pretty sure you've read the report. Has it lived the 10 points? Because you've read the 10 points, you've read the report. Hansen has pushed back. He has said there are some of the parts which have not been met. And the expert has said, no, it's covered. So, Ojwang, has it lived to the spirit? Because Sifuna said Baba is standing in the grave. That these are not the things that he had asked for. Has it lived to it?
But is Sifuna dead? How can you confirm that Baba is standing in the grave? Is Sifuna dead? I mean, really?
I'm just reporting.
No, I know.
I'm a reporter.
No, because only the dead can speak to the fellow dead. Then I think Sifuna's then is a deadly report.
Okay, deadly report.
I think the Sifuna's report was a report on the report.
It was a reaction.
And therefore, when you want to, it's like reading a book that has a footnote leading you to the main lead. So if in a footnote they have mentioned this is our data, then you go back to the main report. And so I think they were fair enough to say we had to come up with something to counter that report. And when you saw the various speakers, I saw Sosi, I saw Babu, I saw Rengo, Governor, and I saw all of them were actually responding more to the report than their, and so I think it's opinion. And as Javas have said, freedom of expression is still a virtue. I think that, when I was part of NADCO, I know at some point the pain point in NADCO. Remember when Gachagua was in Kericho and criticized Senator Cheruiyot, that you are wasting time in that thing called NADCO, and yet he was a deputy president. So some of these things actually tears even the main ruling party. Because here you had the deputy president who criticized, opposed NADCO throughout. And you had the president on one hand who had reached out to Raila, and Raila brought a team led by Kalonzo. And they were actually talking of not ODM issues or Azimio issue, but Kenya issues. And I think sometimes when you articulate problem, you have to be fair enough to know that you are articulating it on behalf of Kenya. These are not Sifuna's issues. It's not a Sifuna test. It has always been about the people. And that is what happened, because when we were in NADCO, then it turned out that both the so-called government and the opposition are both constitute the people of Kenya. And within that mandate, they were able to call various Kenyans to give their report. And I think that methodology is very important, because I saw in the 10-point agenda, the committee adopting the same. And one of the criticism was, why were they moving around? Surely, we know that because Kenyans are not just in Nairobi. It's not a Nairobi report. It cannot be a Nairobi report. When you are talking of devolution, when you are talking of these points, we are not in a centralist state. We are in Kenya, and Kenyans' opinion must be sought. And therefore, that is where you can now look at the quality. Going to Homa Bay and meeting people in a hall, vis-a-vis doing a poll and calling a few and saying this is the opinion. I looked at what NADCO suggested. The report is now affirming about 5 bills have been done, or 4. 3 are under mediation, and 3 are still being considered by Parliament. I'm a teacher, and as a teacher, I'm an art teacher. Law is an art. Even if you came with a perfect answer, I will never give you 100%, because then that means you cannot improve. Then that means that as a teacher, you are smarter than me. So whichever way, for conversation and to motivate the student, the best I can give is 80%. Not because I'm mean, but I understand that in social science, there is no one answer. That's the reality. And that's why, even when it comes to this report, it becomes a conversation. Because it's not like malaria, you simply come and we can test the blood and say there is plasmodium, there is malaria or not. This is an art. And being an art or a social subject, that's why there is thousands of opinions, something that will quickly bore people who believe in science, because they will not see value in splitting hair. But when you look at the report, and so it cannot be perfect. I don't expect a perfect report. But I'm giving you that background to show that you can understand the nervousness of Kenya, because Kenya is a broken dream of various political settlement. None is implemented. Even reports from Dungu, from whatever report.
And that was actually my next question. What's different about
we don't do those reports. Even NADCO, even BBI, when it failed in court, we never saw anything out of it. And that is why I like the innovativeness of the 10-point agenda, that we make as we do. We are not going to look for the perfect storm first. We are already implementing austerity measures on some of the government spending, zero-based budget and all that as we talk. And I think that is better because it buys time and people can get quick wins where it's important, and the conversation continues. And I think that model of conversation is very important than doing it as a summative exam. Kenyans are used to, and that's what CBC was trying to remove. They're used to end-term results. So Sifuna is approaching it like, and that is why they come with ozone or things to copy. You deposit all what you have known, you go away.
Even in the exam, they say attempt all questions. Don't attempt.
And so it's part of our bad manners that we think of things as projects, and we don't like conversations. But I looked at the serious austerity measure. Look at what has happened in terms of farming and right to food. That it started by just being lucky that we have very good seasons for the last 2 years. We had a lot of rain. But it also took some planning that we had fertilizers. And then it took some strategic thinking that we have food reserve. That we are being told that there is food, don't panic. We are not going to see those yellow maize that are from Mexico that always and are not palatable to our eating. So if you talk of inclusivity, if the discussion about inclusivity, and that has been our fair north, everyone comes from Kenya, and we have seen the discussion in terms of the development must not only circulate among those who voted for this government. To me, that is bold, because we know Kenya, where the politics have been, and the council of this country has been, it's our turn to eat. It was well articulated by Gachagua, but it's no more. Because the issue of inclusivity,
he's not in government anymore. He's no more.
He's
not alive.
No.
He's no longer in government.
He's no longer in government. But his philosophy was the usual one: we to the winners goes the spoil, and that was the heart of NADCO discussion. That no, you cannot disproportionately discriminate 47% or 48% of Kenya. Because every election, we almost have equal symmetry.
50 plus 1.
All it's needed is 50 plus 1. Then now, if you are saying, Sisi Twala Nyama, all those adage, and then you now want to say, let us prioritize to the regions or the people who voted for us, then you are going to exclude half of the country. Bitok, that has been something that has failed Kenya from the beginning. Start from the so-called Herald Tomboya paper, sessional paper 10, that said, let us prioritize on some regions at the expense of others. It might have meant well, but that have been the foundation of this country. So when you see inclusive development, when you see things going to places that probably, according to others, don't deserve because they didn't vote. When you look at the idea that, our ceiling is stabilized, because we have been in this country, and so the cost of living, or of dying, but of living generally, I'm confused. Up is down and down is up. But let's talk of the cost of living, not the cost of death. The cost of living at this point was directly affected by the dollars because we import some things. And wasn't it 2 years when we saw the dollar run up to 160s, 165? 170, and now it has kind of stabilized around 120 there. the issue of debt and runaway debt and the risk of defaulting, the issue of compensation of the victims. The panel that you hear was set. That court came and said, you have to make this comply in a certain way, work with the Kenya Human Rights Commission, but you are seeing that already there is commitment of 2 billion. Because, and to me, this is how I look at this report. If you want to look at weakness and fault, you'll find. If you want to see progress, progress is always good, because the way we have done our politics, some people have understood that human rights is about going to picket. I think that was not the goal of human rights. The goal of human rights is to be enjoyed. Human right is something to be enjoyed, right to food, right to health. It's not to be suffered. So we must not make Mandamano the definition of human rights. Mandamano come because there is failure of human rights. And so if we can make a system where people can get food, people can get help, people can get all the houses, people can face the system where if there's brutality, they can go to IPOA. People can then get, you have seen drainage being added, people can get a few more things, then we have achieved human rights. But unfortunately, we have been hardened. And you know that is the unfortunate thing, that the culture, we have developed a culture. That's why they have even critiqued corporal punishment. That somebody can get so used to corporal punishment that it's no longer deterrent. It
doesn't work anymore.
We have become so hardened that we have narrowed human rights to picketing. And that is a sad thing to watch. So that all somebody can say is, do we have a right to picket? Why do you want to picket when you can enjoy SHA? Why do you have to go picket? Because it's not easy to picket.
You can test the benefits.
When you can get affordable housing, you can move from slums. 60% of Kenyans live in slums, informal settlement in Nairobi. 60%. And
Prof, it reminds me of what Museveni once said, that why is basically walking in form of protest when he has vehicles? Why is he walking?
Right. So that now I have to get out of my vehicle because I'm protesting.
Human rights.
So I'll give the report, another report, the implementation.
Okay.
The implementation, 80%. Okay. Because I think the biggest work is for us to go to 2027 with a changed mindset, with a good IBC as a reference. That Kenyans, and that's why I like the conversation whether votes should again be counted in bomas or in counties. By the way, that was an ODM argument.
Get close to your microphone.
Final in the counties. If you look at the issue of audit, for example, I think the Constitution is giving like 2 years or 1 year after the election. Okay. It cannot be done 3-4 years after election. And so I think it's an impossibility. And you can see this is coming from the people who are still looking at who ate their agent money. So your disorganization cannot disorganize the whole electoral system and cycle. Up to now, if you find the real conversation of Sifuna or even his accusation and counter-accusation is who ran with our agents' money, who ran with it during Owala's time, who ran with it the next election, the three circles. So surely that cannot be taken into account when you are planning for an election a year or two. And we all know that Open Server has been the boogeyman, because it's not like a dark room where you come, we turn light and you see the server, creepy things coming. Everyone knows that it was the portal which was accessible for everyone. And so, but of course, for the sake of politics, that was what was managing then. But now ODM are at the table. Now ODM can live to their ideals and serve their people right. And that, I think, is a better place to be.
Okay.
You see,
Javas,
Mr. Bitok,
and even as you jump in, Javas, there's a question that Ojwang was asking passively. And I think that's also one of the questions that Kenyans are asking. Since independence, we've had reports. I mean, if you are actually to count the reports, I think the reports are more than Kenyans that we've done ever since independence. What is so different about this?
you see, Mr. Bitok, just picking it up from where Professor Ojwang has left it, the report by Sifuna is merely parachuting, getting into the field without a mechanism of getting out of it.
Okay.
Now,
Is he in the Middle East?
his professor has given some analogy that is medical in nature. When you have got abdominal pain with some pain near the navel, the doctor will send you to the laboratory. But prior to that, he will request you to go and use the colloquiums and bring some samples.
Okay.
The evidence from the lab will show what you are ailing from. The committee has engaged implementing agencies, established what the matter is, whether carcinogenic or otherwise, regarding the implementation of the 10-point agenda. We have got the evidence presented in the report. Why is it that people have got eyes but do not want to see proof? I will ask, and Doc is here, Mr. Bitok. When it comes to economic inclusion, livelihoods and the welfare of the youth, the questions that are pregnant, that in fact require no answers because the evidence is there. Our report has established 820,000 young people between the ages of 18 and 29 are direct, real beneficiaries from the NYOTA program. Training, mentorship, entrepreneurial support. In the engagements we have had people that are beneficiaries from the NYOTA program. Those who have actually even also received 25,000 shillings out of the intended 50,000 shillings, which they will receive still in the end. They are there from the 1,450 wards, all the wards in Kenya, including the ward where Sifuna's umbilical cord was buried.
He was born in hospital. Lucky.
There, whether it's the Gashagwas and all these people, even their neighbors are beneficiaries from SHA, programs for social and health inclusion. The facts are there. If it's about, for example, 640,000 professionals, including very many young people, being employed from the affordable housing program. This affordable housing program across Kenya are not being built by ghosts or foreigners. They are Kenyans. The evidence is there. Is this something to fight about? If it's about the 100,000 Kenyan teachers who have been employed, if you ask how many Kenyans have been employed, they will come with the copies of the employment letters. Sifuna has not even shown or negated whether teachers have been employed and whether we are meeting the global standards of teacher-student ratio. The facts are there. This is what our report has established. If it's about the 200,000 young Kenyans who have been employed through the climate works, they are there. Has Sifuna and his team spoken to a single one who's worked for the climate works? Why are they perambulating, hovering like evil spirits, writing a report that has got no evidentiary value?
Report on the report.
Yes. Had we not written a report, they would have no report at all. Our report is evidence-based. But let's face it. It is possible that some Kenyans are not feeling the impact of the transformation. It is possible. Because there are two issues we need to face realistically. One is the process aspect of the implementation, And second is the impact assessment of the implementation. All these things are intertwined and we must consider them. If it's in terms of process, today as we are speaking, one of the recommendations from the NADCO report was the reconstitution of IEBC. Right. For a long time, we did not have commissioners. Our commissioners in office today. Have by-elections been conducted? Have we had the IEBC pronouncing itself on the process of delimitation of boundaries? These are facts on the table. The Statutory Instruments Act, is it now a law assented to by the President, Amendment Act? It is. Some other bills that have not been implemented that are at various stages of the legislative process, including Election Offences Amendment Bill. Look, that bill provides that when an electoral officer delays deliberately, intentionally, or otherwise to declare results, it's an election offense. These bills are under mediation presently in Parliament. When I hear a member of Parliament, Sifuna is a member of Parliament, saying that we have not seen anything happen, what role have they played and are they playing to ensure the implementation of the bills in Parliament today? And that is why, give it to President William Ruto. Even our committee has recommended, we need a broad-based mediation committee to ensure the fast-tracking of the various bills that are pending at various stages. There is also one important bill that Kenyans need to know, the Bicameral Relations Bill. It is a bill that will ensure all these fissures, push and pull, the bumps between the National Assembly and the Senate are smoothened. I am a practicing Christian. I have read somewhere within the covers of the Bible, and the elder is here. He's a preacher par excellence. That all mountains will be made low, all valleys will be filled. Mm-hmm. The Bicameral Relations Bill will smoothen and make flat relations between the Senate and the National Assembly. Okay. These are facts that we've established. Another thing, for example, today, has the judiciary been supported to hire more judicial officers? The answer is yes. Today, as we are speaking, President William Ruto now witnessed and in fact had into office, by way of authority granted to him by the Constitution, 11 Court of Appeal judges. Were they sworn into office? Yes. Is that progression on the rule of law? Yes. Have we seen and witnessed the recruitment process of 20 High Court judges by the Judicial Service Commission? Yes. Just last week, the President assented into law the Judicial Officers Retirement Benefits Act for the benefit of judicial officers when they go into retirement, so that the issues of officers ensuring the rule of law is protected and guaranteed. These are facts. They are there to be seen. So, I get it. Mr. Bitok, I get it when some Kenyans are skeptical, yes, because some people struggle to believe in government.
They're also traumatized. Ojwang says these people are traumatized.
But as we're speaking here, they need my relative, let me tell you, the government has prioritized and ensured there's 2 billion shillings
for compensation.
For compensation of victims of riots in the supplementary budget. A panel of experts has been gazetted already. The IPOA and the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, they have established mechanisms for compensation. I have seen with my own eyes, I wear 4 eyes, my own God-given plus these artificial ones. Excellent. I have seen post-mortem reports, medical reports of examination of persons who were injured, whether ordinary citizens, some of them police officers who were injured in the line of duty. All these are victims of compensation. They will be compensated, and Professor Ojwang is here. He sits on that panel. Okay. These are things that we cannot argue about. All right. They say facts are stubborn. Mm-hmm. No, I think facts are like the sun. Whether you run away into the shade, the sun still exists. Facts exist like the sun.
All right. Dr. Hansen, yes. How are you? You're right at all. Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Tumisha mhubiri kabisa.
yeah, I mean, it's good listening to Javas and Prof. And I think for most Kenyans, just like Javas has said, there is the issue of process impact and output impact. And naturally, you know, activity does not always equal productivity. And I think the process impact is glaring. All Kenyans are seeing processes. All Kenyans are seeing legislation in place to enable affordable housing. They are seeing legislation in place and you know, a legislative framework to establish the compensation panel. I mean, we are seeing money deployed and all that. And you see, what an ordinary Kenyan is seeing is opportunities for people to make money. If today...
Is that what they are saying?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, and it is a perception that is real, and it is underpinned by poor communication, if I may say. Javas, for instance, is saying that affordable housing has employed people, the young people who didn't have jobs. And I remember the president kept talking about this, that one aspect of affordable housing is to provide housing for people who don't have housing. And there is affordable and there is social housing to it. You see, that is happening. You see, but his most important aspect of affordable housing, from what I gathered in his speech, is that it was going to provide employment. Since this regime came to power, who has given us data on the number of people that have been employed courtesy of affordable housing? No one. In fact, I've seen a number of people talk about affordable housing, that houses have been built, yet they don't even know the consumption of the materials. But that data is there. So when we talk about the process impact, that one is seen. We are seeing houses being launched, you know. But the output impact, which is what Kenyans will judge this regime on, is nowhere to be seen, you know. I mean, this regime, in whatever formation they will have in the coming election, will only win power if individuals have a feel of how it has changed their lives. And I'm sure, I've kept telling many people that it might look like the regime does not communicate effectively on its delivery. But the reality of the matter is there are many Kenyans who've owned homes, courtesy of social housing. Right. There are many Kenyans who are now owning home courtesy of affordable housing. And there are so many Kenyan families that now have at least one young person who has some capital. You know, courtesy of affordable housing. Courtesy of the Nyota Fund. Correct. I mean, that's my favorite from this government. Courtesy of the Nyota Fund. So those individuals, by the fact that they are affected at individual level, might actually have a favorable voting behavior for this regime. But you guys, or let me say Javas and the committee, I mean, the big shots who've benefited from, you know, the inclusivity courtesy of the ODM and UDA, what they are not doing is they're not giving us the tangible impact of the output. That is not coming out. And you'll be judged. Majority of people who have not been touched by affordable housing, by Nyota Fund, they're going to judge you on the process output. They'll see you've done so many things. I mean, you've done legislation, you've put a framework to make things legal, but then it has not worked for them. And a number of things that you know, we've talked about here with regard to the report, you know, speak to that. Given the report that was released yesterday, which is the report, and the reactions that we have today, you realize that people are likely to go more with the conversations on the reaction. It is a lot more easier for people to identify with what Sifuna is saying. Why? Because in as much as a framework has been put to compensate people, no one has been compensated. I mean, that's the reality on the ground. And people don't live on what is planned. People live on the reality on the ground. It's the same thing with affordable housing. In as much as we know it's going on, the reality on the ground is that it has touched people, but that communication, if someone comes and communicates and says affordable housing is just benefiting a few people, if it has not touched me, that is what I will believe. But finally, let me just talk about a few things that Prof raised, the issue of servers and the portal. And I think there's also the issue of employment of teachers. Those two, I think, for me, are critical in the sense that, Prof and I were on the opposite sides in the last election. So our understanding of the server and the portal probably are opposite. One thing I know is that the portal that all of us went through and got those results, was a product of a transmission mechanism. And I think we need not to go to the next general election with the things that characterized the last election still in place. We have to address that. I mean, I think it's the Kiai Act, the one that was seminal enough to say that the presidential election is final at the constituency level, should be the principle here. That no one should care about what happens at the tallying center. But as Kenyans, and this is not about IBC, this is not about political parties. This is a stakeholder-wide issue. That we need to move beyond this server conversation, because that is the point where elections are contested. When you just tell people that there's a server somewhere, some of us know when you say there's a server. To date, I still believe that portal was probably just, it was just a portal. To me, it has never been a true reflection of what happened. And I don't blame IBC, I don't blame individuals. I come from a media background, and since the last election, we've had a number of studies I've done with students that I supervise. And 3 students have actually done studies on the role of the media and what the media would have done much better. You see, and this is a nationwide conversation. There is no one single media outlet that can reach all the constituencies in this country. But you see, we trust the media more than we trust the government. We trust the media more than we trust all the political parties combined. We trust the media more than we trust IEBC. If the law is very critical that once whatever the returning officer declares at the constituency level is pinned, anyone can take a snap so long as it is signed and share, wherever they share. So long as no individual who is not allowed by the law to declare the elections does not declare, those things can be shared. So we are actually a very tech-savvy country. Internet penetration is extremely high. If we just find a way of harnessing resources so that not one media house can send people to Suna East's Nyikendo polling station, where I come from. They distribute their resources so that all the media houses cover. And this is a conversation that cannot just be about the media. It's the media, it's the political parties, all the stakeholders. So we need not to have these conversations around server. I'm sure we don't have someone with the stature of Baba who will just mention server and people are like, this election is stolen. So we need not to get to that point where we are doubting the veracity of the election because someone talks about the server. Or someone tells us that there is somewhere where all these results go to. If from the constituency we can find a way of getting that. And if this regime has done enough, in terms of the process impact, they just need to work on their output impact. How are they changing the lives of individual Kenyans? They should actually facilitate, a free, fair, verifiable election and make use of our robust media. Our media is one of the best in sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, outside South Africa, I don't think there's any other media system that competes our media. So this, I think, are conversations that if this regime is extremely confident of what it has delivered, they should be comfortable having conversations around electoral justice, conversations around how are we going to beat everyone hands down in the next election, and it will be there for everyone to see. And I think until we get to that point of the output being communicated, there's a sense in which the ride on the process impact does not really guarantee anything, even with the conversations around, an elaborate team that is working on the ODM and UDA arrangement. I mean, it's still going to be very difficult until, a number of these processes are turned into output impact and communicated effectively.
Okay. Ojwang, Dr. Hansen is saying the word sour gives him a lot of goosebumps. Like, use any other word, but please, sour, wachana nayo. And there's something that also coming out on the issues of Kenyans.
Yeah.
The issues of compensation did not come from a vacuum. It was demanded that we want to be compensated for injuries that we have had in demonstrations and for the deaths that have been come either directly out of lawful enforced police action or by byproduct of demonstration. Kuna watu walikanyagwa wakidemonstrate, kuna wengine walifanya waligongwa mawe, wengine walilimwa na tear gas. They said that we want to be compensated. But now, what Hansen is saying is, they've said now we've set aside 2 billion. It's like, mnataka kuiba. How do we fix this trauma?
No, I think Doc said that setting it is not the most important part until it actually
People see it in
get
their
the
accounts.
victims.
Okay.
Yeah, which is true because the purpose was not to set it. The purpose was to ameliorate what can be done to the victim. In fact, I saw in one of the criticism from Sifuna, from Suba North MP was who decide how much a leg is worth. Of course,
Valuation.
Of course, those are rhetorics because nobody can replace a leg. More so even, or rape. And, he had a list of who decides. But you know, in the courts, there have been compensation for those losses, not because they are replacement, but it's the best human can do. And, of course, trying to restore as much as possible this person to their dignity. I don't like the word regime because regime connotates our constitution does not create regimes. It creates a government by the people. You see, regime connotates authoritarianship. And once you hear the word regime, then whatever follows is suspect.
So you also have goosebumps for regime.
Right. No, even throughout the government, even the governments that have opposed, and have opposed many, the word regime is a language that we used before 2010. And it's a relapse. The doc here is fond of relapsing back to the pre-2010 order. Exactly. You see, it's not innocent.
Yes.
So, because, and this is the, we sing in our church, prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. We had a very hard time as Kenyans fighting for liberty against dictatorship. In the process, Kenya had to develop thick skin. Kenya had to defy governments. When they say go left, you go right, because they have banned the Kamukunji rally. We know the multi-party history. The Shikuku, the Raila had to attend with or without, license. So that became a culture of disruption, a culture of doing it without the law. But habits are diehard. People have not recovered. Even after now we have it in law. And now it is authorized by law. And now we are told that the government is representation of people. But we still talk of this government like a mystical figure somewhere that was alien, dropped from heaven, and us versus. And that is... if there is one reason I will want to take my friend to detox, is that hard line that we have developed because of that unfortunate history, where we have a government on one side and us on the other side. And that is because we have gone through trauma, generally as a people, more than others, in opposing governments and demanding fairness. We have been the bulwark. Forget these institutions or human rights, civil society. We have been the bulwark as a community on demanding for fairness. but it has left us traumatized. And therefore, it is very hard to get people from my region to trust and to feel that the government can actually be genuinely by the people. But that is the undertaking. As a young man from Beta Boys, Form 2, I still remember the articulation of Orengo in Homa Bay Junction, where he was saying, we want to change the constitution, that we will be getting our money, regardless of whether we oppose the government or not. Everyone was like, how? That was devolution. That we can oppose the government, but we have our share of devolution regardless. So Kenya have really made strides. And maybe it's not, democracy require eternal vigilance, but I think we have developed a culture of mistrust, because that's how we had to survive. The police, from the time Kenyatta massacre, is the differences with Odinga, and so you have to understand where we are coming from. But I think what has worked in the past might not work, and that's why I like the pragmatism of the likes like Oburu, of saying, you know what, we were in the street, now we are at the table. What do we want? They have said, Orengo is asking us to leave the table, go back to the street, fight back to come back to the table. Surely, is that logical? But I think beyond these reports, what he's saying, what he does not say, Javas have given hints of several data, even on the employment. Because I think at some point, the argument was, we need to do programs and that deliberately create jobs, and a lot of jobs. So we have to be biased to bring labor-intensive programs and projects, and that is why housing became one of them. Rather than taking a lot of money from Kenyans and doing something that does not give opportunity for a lot of employment. So that has been the fair north in choosing projects. They, for example, considered, look at all the money that SGR took from Mombasa to Nairobi. Look at how many people were employed, vis-a-vis if we took that same money and build houses. The report is saying that of all the companies, there's only 2 foreign companies. The rest are Kenyans. I was seeing video of Kenyans coming out saying, you know what, I've been welding for the doors, I've been building the windows, I've been whatever. And so it is a chain reaction. That when you do such a project, the plumber down the street, the boda down the street, the welder down the street gets money and buys more mboga and hopefully more meat, and in the process you have that's how economy develop. But the question behind your question, in my view, and a fair question, is this fight really about the report? I don't think so. I want to give each contender, each party, their best argument. I don't think the fight of Sifuna team and Java's team, and even led by Oburu and Excellency the President, is simply about the report. And because if we don't ask the right question, we will never get the right answer. I think it is the human conflict. It's not the report conflict. It's the human that are actually conflicted, and therefore the report here is simply an scapegoat.
And actually,
the conflict is simple.
The report was supposed to fix the conflict. So now we have the conflict.
No, the report is brought by humans who are conflicted. Because Sifuna is clear that I cannot work with Ruto, with President Ruto and with the UDA. And he believes that will offend Baba. And do you want to offend Baba? No. So I will not work with the president. That he has been consistent. Even when he was dragged to the stage to sign the 10-point agenda in Mombasa, that later on he came out to say is the author and the cook, and he knows everything, he's the professor about them. Remember, the media reported immediately that they could see from his body language that he has been coerced into it. His view, I think the differences then, if it's not so much about the report, it's about the different direction for ODM for 2027. That's the real conflict. One team feel they want to join the opposition. Another team, which now have taken over ODM, and the majority of ODM, are very clear that, you know what, we have been the people's watchmen. We have fought for right to equality in law. But the next battle is equality of opportunities. And you see, the world is bigger than it exists in the mind of lawyers, even senior counsel like Orengo. And that's what I always tell lawyers. Because lawyers always think of equality in law as the solution to all the problems. But we have always had fair laws. But the implementation have not been fair, been skewed. The opportunity have not been equal, we know it. One statistic will show you the disparity on child mortality, about the unemployment, about the poverty index, about the decline of education in some regions. You will go to the presidential service delivery and see when Kibaki was a president and when Uhuru was a president and how the resources were allocated. So we have been having equality in law, but not equality of opportunities. And so this other side, led by Oburu and the majority, are saying, you know what? We have achieved the 2010 Constitution. We have a good foundation. Thank God people like Orengo fought. They have scar to show for it. People like Nyong'o had to go to Mexico. That's how the name Lupita, the daughter, came about. But for this time now, we want to now fight on economic equality. Almost what others call the fifth revolution. And that is the departure. And because if that is the departure, then I think, and in my prediction, for those who have been waiting for ODM with a bated breath, which side are they going to take? It's becoming much more clear that the only thing standing between ODM and forming a coalition with UDA is the NDC that is coming on 27th. That there is all the indication that they will work with ODM. And there is all the indication that Sifuna and his shadow report, we used to have shadow reports, isn't it? We will eventually work with opposition. And I think that is a better place to be, so that you don't produce a report about a report you don't want. You also produce a report of the alternative Kenya that you want to give us and paint a picture. Somebody cannot get to the art room and get paint to paint against what somebody had painted. You paint the picture that you want to produce. Thank you.
Okay, 10 minutes to the top of the hour. As always, what does be very critical is
just a brief rebuttal. I think Prof has raised a very critical issue, the issue of regime, and I think I was very deliberate that we have a government of Kenya for all Kenyans, and I think that's the ideal in any democracy, where the power to govern is given by the people, and it becomes the government of everyone, including the people who did not give it but participated in the election.
Who don't have shares.
Yes, but let me just buttress the reason why I will keep talking about the regime. Now, we elected this government, whether we voted for it or not at individual level, but as a country, that is the government we gave ourselves. And I think it would be unfair for people like me who understand, the basic tenets of a democracy to associate with this government with a clean heart. They have an opportunity to clean themselves, because this is a regime since its inception. The number of people who have died courtesy of this regime's brutality, because all the actions of the police, all the deaths that we've witnessed, is attributed to the people we gave power. And the people we gave power are the ones who form the government. So if they behave in a manner likely to suggest that it is a dictatorial government, then until they sanitize themselves, we will politely refer to it as a regime. Thank you.
Regime change, okay. But now the ones that you voted are also now inside. Are they now jointly a regime? Or there's,
I mean,
because you voted for the other side.
I've been very.
That Java is not.
No. I've been very consistent. Even the regime that gave us BBI and gave us Azimio, I referred to it as a regime. It is towards the election that now it was a contest between two strong political formations. Political formations that were looking for that power. If the one that I supported took power and behaved in a way that brutalized the people who gave it power, I mean, it would disassociate itself from the people and it would be perceived as a regime, I guess.
So until they get there, we will never know. So
there are indications.
But
we are in good company. Prof is in a panel.
And Javas is working on what you failed on in 2027.
Yes.
So, Javas, we have 10 minutes to the top of the hour. And what is really critical now is people want to understand what next. Okay? You've done this beautiful report that the committee has sat on. We have released it to the public. We now have a political process that clearly is seen rolling. That's political, okay? As much as this is also a product of politics. But this is also more about the people who are more concerned about what is going to happen from this, because the 10 points agenda are issues that touch on the people. It was asked for by the people. Compensations about the people, okay? Of course, the issues of political inclusion that has benefited what Hansen is saying, the politicians who, according to him, might not represent the aspirations of the people. But okay, let's talk about the people. What next? What next for this report, for this 10 points agenda?
We, the people.
We, the people.
We hold the keys to the sovereign power.
Yes.
And that is in the Constitution. You see, what I would like to encourage my fellow citizens is that, unlike a house like this one, nation building is not a project that comes to an end. It is perpetual. There is no finishing touches to nation building. So what our ancestors did, what we're doing in future, hundreds of years to come, others will do even much better. That's the nature of nations. But also when we invest in systems to make our country better, it's things that we should celebrate. There are countries that have failed to meet their international obligations in debt payment and management. Their shillings have been devalued. When you travel out of this country, you get to see situations and just come back and value why it's so proud for you to be a Kenyan. You see, it's the Swahili who say that asotembea mbali na kwao udhani mama yake peke yake ndiye anajua kusonga ugali. Out there, when you travel, you'll realize we as a country are way better. But we know still we've got time, room to improve, to pull our socks from around the ankles. I think now, appreciating the grace of His Excellency the President, the ODM party leader, Dr. Oburu Oginga, they have added 60 days to the committee by way of extension. We have not dealt with all stakeholders, trade unions, teachers, farmers groups, a couple of other county governments. We're going to engage. The Professor Ojwang committee has not even said compensation. We want to pleasantly imagine that within the next 1 month or so, compensation will be done, so that when the committee handles, deals with, and delivers its final comprehensive report, the implementation of the 10-point agenda should be at 98%. Now, that's what we are looking forward to. Now, the committee is supported by political parties, UDA and ODM, not government. Political parties have got their funds. This, another thing we should celebrate, that our political parties have been institutionalized and financed by the exchequer. Go to Uganda, go to Ghana, go to other countries. Political parties are not financed by the exchequer. Let me tell you, there's so much for us to be proud about as Kenyans. But still we can do much better. We can do much more. That our leaders, look, the president signed into law the conflict of interest act now, which is now operationalized. It is not about the president and the members that are elected that should avoid the conflict of interest. People, ordinary citizens who are playing proxy for politicians, that affects leadership and integrity. That touches on matters of conflict of interest. Let us look inward. Let's look at ourselves. What role is each one of us going to play to make Kenya better? Among our recommendations, we said, support the judiciary more. We recommended have IPOA to investigate its cases and make their reports public within 6 months. Because when you delay investigations, it's injurious to those who are supposed to benefit from the justice system. Any cases to do with ethics, integrity, corruption, we have recommended that the judiciary should deal with those cases within 6 months. Why, for heaven's sake, should a case take 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, a corruption case?
Even 10 years, we have cases.
Just the same way we have to deal with elections within 6 months, we can deal with the graft cases within 6 months. It's possible. And let me tell you, we continue to do like this. President William Ruto is on record saying that we must have our country railroaded to become a first world country within our lifetime. It is possible. Trouble is that we are so self-doubting. As a Christian, I read somewhere that when Peter was asked by Christ the Messiah to walk on water, he started doubting and wondering, I, the son of a sinner, can walk on water. He started thinking of himself as a celebrity. He started thinking. Christ asked, where is your faith? To my fellow Kenyans, as in closing, I would say, Mr. Bitok, patriotism and nationalism demands not that we must support everything that government is saying and doing, but government is ours. It's the 16th president of the US, Abraham Lincoln, who said, there can be no democracy without government with the people, by the people, and for the people. This government is ours. There is nobody in this country, Kenya, today who is out of government. The constitution does not recognize official opposition. It's not there. It's mythical. We all belong to government. We all pay taxes. We all breathe the same air in this country. This country will be built by ourselves, by our own hands. The 10-point agenda is part of those essential efforts to make Kenya a great country.
Thank you. It's a good point. Hansen, what do you expect going forward? Because
two things. Let me just talk about two things that I expect going forward. One is discourse. I think we are in a very good space. I think Baba left us in a very bright space where it can only get brighter. It is not about individuals. It is not about political parties. It is about the people. If you look at the 10 points in the 10-point agenda and even revisit NADCO report, you realize that it is about the people. And I think it doesn't matter what positions people take, whether it is the ODM that wants to go the opposition way or the ODM that wants to go the establishment way. We need to remind ourselves that discourse is good. And with the 10-point agenda, we are in a very well-poised position to have robust debates about the deliverables of the 10-point agenda because they touch on the people. We might disagree, we might hold different opinions, but so long as we are rooted in those 10-point agenda, fight against corruption, inclusivity, we are talking about economic empowerment, we will be addressing the issues of the people. And I think, both the leadership of ODM and the president have demonstrated, the willingness for fidelity to the 10-point agenda. It doesn't mean that we'll always agree with them and we will keep quiet if they're doing the things that don't address the plight of the people will still make noise. But that noise is part and parcel of discourse, which is progressive. Then the second thing, and I'm saying this as a member of ODM, as someone who believes in ODMs and its ideologies, the real ODM, not the many factions. It's a bit clear that, you know, they're well poised to have a coalition agreement with UDA going into the next election. And I think many questions have been raised that people are looking for what share. And what, I mean, in whichever way you talk about it, I think there is brokerage of who gets what. And I think for me, it is important to raise this to the leadership, you know, that is involved in these negotiations, that we have since reached this point where it is not the positions that are given that are important. It is the economic negotiations and what those positions or lack thereof, the positions are not important. I come from Migori. The entire area of Migori and Homa Bay, there is enough fish production. But the only fish processing plant is by a young lady called Sheila Owigolang. It is a social enterprise by an individual. So when they are going to negotiate to get into an agreement, there are certain economic things that need to be the, you know, anchors of those negotiations. What are the economic gains of, you know, getting into this agreement? And I think it's not a question of shares. It's just a question of how do we prioritize things that will create employment for people in most of these regions where ODM is popular. So that it is not about the political power that individuals will get, but the economic power that will trickle down to the common mwananchi. That is the voice that I hear, you know, from the ground. And some of us are very local. We might be seen on these platforms. But when we go to the ground, we listen to the conversations. And these conversations are based on what has happened in the past. I think we've had enough of this elite convergence for self-preservation that has been perpetual. But it has reached a point where it is no longer going to be about arrangements that the elite politicians and the legacy politicians make. If it doesn't touch on the people, they risk disenfranchising themselves, remaining with agreements, and the people will go with the votes.
Okay, all right. Ojwang, how do we move forward as a nation? And there's something that Javas has mentioned, that after elections, there is no opposition, there is no government. We all belong to the government. It's like all of us are adopted. Even Hansen now, So how do we move forward as a nation, and how do we ensure that we can stick together, even if it's not for anything, just for posterity? Because there are matters that we should not be divergent on. And then again, with all these efforts that we are doing, look at what even the situation they are looking at. Hansen has to clarify that he is a member of the ODM, because there's others. So within even unity, there's still division. How do we close in these gaps as a nation and even as a people? How do we move forward so that we appreciate things that are being done, like the issues of compensation that you're talking about? These Kenyans who died, their families, most people came from somewhere. They belong to this nation, despite of, within their hearts, there's something that they wanted. How they wanted to see the nation. So how do we progress? Because we are standing on the platform of conversations that are happening now. And this report is an effort to bridge the gap across the political ground. Hansen, of course, will argue that's an elite conversation. But the purview, the bigger question is, how do we have the nation come together and how do we progress? How do we pick your mind on that?
That's almost a spiritual question. But,
this is a spiritual moment.
It is, huh? One of the bills that is coming up and almost done is the Corona bill. Very important because when it comes to the issue of seeing the cost of death so that somebody can be compensated, and for the report, so government is almost done with it. I've spoken to some colleagues in the human rights, the Justice Department, and it's at the final stages. I think two things. One, we must distinguish signal from the noise. And it is important to know what is a signal and what is noise. There's a lot of pseudo movements in Kenya. Everything has become a movement against movements. But I think Kenyans should be able to look beyond the noise and know that transformation is not an easy thing, that transformation takes time, that sometimes the seed of happiness are sown in the darkness. And I think that really is what happened when, after all the dark history of competitive presidential election, former Prime Minister, the late Raila, was able to reach to President Ruto and say, here is my hand. And the biggest gift God can give you is to turn your enemy to be your brother and friend. And I think that is so symbolic of what this country can become. Because if the two protagonists then, as we thought, could come together and say, let us put our heart to what we want Kenya to be, and that writing is in the 10-point agenda, then you can see that it is possible. What I am afraid of is not diversity, but disunity. You know, even within ODM, the issue is not young, old, what, in, out. The issue of diversity is always good, but disunity is different from diversity. And sometimes we conflate that the diversity means disunity. I believe that even when it comes to the issue of compensation, it's in court, but love will always find a way. There will be a way that those Kenyans must be compensated because it's a way of reparation. And this country needs a lot of reparation. It is a bold step to say that, you know what, you went to the street, you had a cause, here is something small, here is to elevate your pain. If you need counseling, go through counseling. And how do we move together as a people? Because this issue of accept and move on has not worked before. Kenyans have not moved on. Some might have moved on, but Kenyans have not moved on. And when I listen, Doc have said he listens to the ground. I usually listen to the conversation in the local posho mill. And so the conversation from the local posho mills is that Kenyans want to differentiate noise from signal. They have come to maturity. They are saying that, you know what, we want a country. Not that we want favors, we want equality. We believe we have ability to do what is right if we are not discriminated. We don't want a country where we form coalition so that we discriminate against other Kenyans, but where we can all win because the government is working for everyone. And that is the idea of the first world country, for example. So I'll conclude by saying, builders come and go, but building must go on. The fact that former Prime Minister Raila was the architecture together with the Excellency Ruto, and they were building this house called the 10-point agenda that was transforming Kenya. Even though he is departed, the building must go on. You do not abandon a building halfway because the fundi or the architecture has passed on. You continue building, and Kenya is a building that must be done beyond our politics. We must have a country where people live with dignity, there is equal opportunity, there is resources for everyone, and I don't think that there is any Kenyan who will think that that is not the right thing to do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, unless there is anyone who has a very burning closure, I think.
I think I wouldn't say there's not anything burning, but I think I'm fired up, and all of us are, that we desire to see and we want to see a great country that Kenya is, and that if we don't do it, nobody will do it for us.
Briefly, I want to thank Javas on behalf of other Kenyans that, many Kenyans take this big task, dangerous, by the way, not so much paying, and they don't get appreciated by fellow Kenyans because of the same mistrust. It's not easy to put aside what you are doing and to say now I've adopted the 10-point agenda and I'm going through the country. And so on behalf of Kenyans, by the way, don't be discouraged. Again, you are building our country together. And I still believe, I don't speak for ODM, but the ODM ideal was about the people. If 10-point agenda is giving infrastructural development, human development, and social development, then surely those ideals and values are not just some things in the thin air like aliens. They are in the 10-point agenda and they are being achieved. I'm tired of this debate. I'm even tired of you, but of this very silly debate like we are in primary school, where you just oppose things. A teacher is better than a farmer. I look at it even in the Senate. Let us have serious discourse. Right. It's not just simply saying if somebody says this is red, you say this is white, and we call that debater. Let us raise our game a little bit and have serious discussion. Not almost like a scouting club. Yet we call each other leaders.
I can tell Javas has not slept. I can tell he has not slept. So thank you so much.
Get serving this nation.
Thank you so much for making time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bitok.
And I know you've been up earlier, so you were on TV in the morning. So, and also Brother Hansen, he has been busy working, but still, he's made time to get and join us this evening. I really appreciate it. So you are surviving on Red Bull.
I have the power.
You're gonna power. That's Ojwang. And thanks also to every Kenyan who has joined us this evening, those who have been on YouTube and Facebook, and also commenting and contributing to this conversation. We don't take it for granted. Like we've said, the nation is perpetually being built. Even Ojwang said when he was a young boy, standing by the roadside, Orengo was preaching about one day, tunaweza kuwa tunapiga serikali lakini tunapata pesa. So, and he is here now. He's having the same conversation. So there is no end.
But beyond that, when it comes to protection or devolution, which one of the 10-point agenda issues? Orengo is not in his county. He's hovering like an evil spirit in Nairobi. He's not even able to engage with his deputy governor. He's a threat to devolution himself.
That was not the point.
The point is whether he's there or not, resources are going to people.
But you see the argument he's making, that you can be a very strong swimmer, but not necessarily a very strong athlete. Or he's a fighter, and not a very good executive material, and you can see that.
And anyway, even if he's in Nairobi, the resources are still going there.
But you see, Sifuna has now reduced Orengo into a political acrobat.
But no, by the way, what was that? That was sabotage. That Orengo speaks, then Babu, and then Sifuna.
Imagine.
Let's reorder.
You're opening up a new debate. But I think the critical thing that I picked from that is that they want Orengo to be like
he's bathing
his setter. He's the one who is ushering them.
He's the midwife.
Because if you do the protocol the other way around, I don't think he has that oomph that he used to have to be the showstopper.
He's a retired.
So the best thing to do is he's the one who is opening the floor for this new generation of leaders. Okay. But they still have a lot. I mean, these are guys who have to learn. They have to learn from the young turks who are around Jaramogi. How did they handle Jaramogi? Do they need to do that to Oburu Odinga to get those? I mean, there's a lot of conversations. I think you can call it another.
We'll break that down next week.
Yes.
We'll break down the poetry and the politics in it, so that we can don't dilute our 10-point agendas.
Power.
Simple. Nawatakia nyinyi wote power. Tuonana next week on Wednesday. Until then, this has been the tackle and it ends now. We love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.